Hey, bro, how you doing, man? Busy at work, huh?
Um, yeah, I'm all right. How about you?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. I'm all right. It's a little bit overcast today. Apparently, they say it's gonna be raining, but not it's not yet gotten to this side. So, but we're good. We're good. We're good.
Well, here for the past few days, it's been raining, cats and dogs, but it's okay now. Today's been bright and sunny.
Yeah, well, I can tell by your internet connection is definitely better today. So,
Man, really, we need this so we'll be able to pass across our message
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear
clearly,
that,
so we
and this.
don't.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that, it will improve. I hear that they're going to invest in fiber optics in that state that you're in, so hopefully it will improve.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, without further ado, maybe we should just jump into our usual, conversation. I remember the last conversation we're having kind of ended, where you were talking about this vaccine and how they're not interested in the African vaccines because it can't be commercialized.
Yeah, it's like the image of the black man being um, fetish, backward. Because I remember I can't remember the name of the history book I read it where it said the the black man it's not necessarily being a monkey, but he has to be civilized. He has to be taught the ways of the white man, the better ways. And you know what that means. So his culture was wiped away. Religion. If you notice, we spell our gods with a small g, but
Yeah,
we,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
have a big G for that that was brought in through colonialism. And every other wisdom has to tend towards what was brought in. Our own ways have been demolished, dissolved, whatever word you can use for it. So these are the issues you can't really um, just wash away. This is the truth. But really need to know these issues and go back to where we're coming from. Because look at the way the world is right now. You're a black man, you tend to hate yourself.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
you're right. I
what
mean, it's not even just even about. I mean, what you're right about the thing with God, but I mean, what you were saying about the commercialization. What did they do to our own way of trading? So they came in and they said, "Oh, the barter system is primitive. That how can you use?" I remember, I think those basic early introductions to economics when they were talking about trade and money, and they were saying, "Oh, the I remember every lesson that we were learning then when I was young always started with, okay, this is the system we're using, but let me explain to you why we had to do away with your system. And it will go to, oh, trade by barter. Think about it. How you want some meat, the other guy wants some Gary. How are you going to trade? And would he cut a live cow? Would he cut piece of it? You would just be so, obviously, the mind is young, impressionable. Most people are not even thinking critically at that stage. They're just whatever you're telling them is just like a sponge. They're just absorbing it. So later on in life, even you'll be hearing adults just regurgitating this thing without even thinking what for one moment. And if you really think about it, you say, come, who in Africa then was living as an individual? This individualistic kind of life is all a Western thing. African, everything is do you remember when I came last year? I was saying, oh, this is something I really missed. That everything communal. We'll finish
yeah.
work, we'll have a communal thing. Everything was communal, eating, sharing problems, everything was done communally. So it was the same thing with
Mhm.
our trade. We were trading community to community. Nobody was just waking up one morning and just say, me alone, I'm going to go and do, I'm going to go and travel how many kilometers to trade for one piece of bronze or one. But
So this those are the issues. Bringing in paper money and controlling the supply. I mean, you know, our money is not printed in Nigeria here. It's being printed somewhere else. I'm sure other African countries also.
Maybe we know
This
about
money,
the franc now, the franc. Now we know
yes,
the echo that they just brought now, that they say, no, we're actually going to do it. So it's no more going to be just in France. We're going to keep your money in all of EU. So look at this. The problem has just changed name. That's all. It's just like
yeah. Same game, different, or how do they put it? Same ball, different game, or is it different ball, same game?
basically it's just like this monopoly, they will just give you different variations of the same. It's still the same monopoly. They just because they will change it. They'll say, okay, this one is Nigerian monopoly. They will now change it to say, oh, it's CBN CBN banking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like our herbal drugs. For example, you bring something bitter, although it's going to cure COVID, but someone sees it and like, what the hell is this? I mean, I can't take this. This is from one bush or something. But the ingredients that are used to make Western drugs actually come from this same things in Africa.
Of course, of course, of course. Look, we know these things. I think this is also part of why we agreed that, okay, when we have these conversations, we'll record them and just air them, because I think there are things we touch on that a lot of people have no idea about. I mean, we are talking about these things because we enjoy, doing our bit of research and then coming to share our findings with each other. And I think, I mean, just like what you were telling me, that book you were telling me about, about the origin of where all this, people wanting to bleach and all that. What was that book again?
The origin, can you say that again?
You remember you were telling me about, we were talking the other day and I was saying, oh, how people, they start bleaching their skin, that generally the lighter you are, the more you are seen as attractive. If you have Western type of hair, this weave-on, all these funny things that
Oh,
I mean, not just women, even men do it.
yeah, black skin,
Even
white
men do it.
mask.
What do you call it again?
Yeah, yeah, true.
Sorry, the name of the
Black
book?
skin, white mask.
Black Skin,
Black
White Mask.
skin, white mask. Yeah.
And
Frantz
also it
Fanon.
was
Frantz Fanon.
Frantz Fanon. Okay, yeah. That was the book.
Yeah, he was
Give
born
us a
in
little bit insight into that
Martinique.
book, actually.
He was born in Martinique and under French colonial rule. And just like you and I, he observes some of these issues of not just racism, but the psychological imprint that it had made into the black man and destroyed the fabric of the society. So basically, I was referring to Frantz Fanon, the author of the book, as you asked me. Some of the issues he discovered, because he grew up under colonialism like you and I. Basically, we are still being colonized, but
Of course.
now it's neo-colonialism. Instead of taking the black man across the sea, you keep him here and you make him work for the capitalist system. So it's actually cheaper. You don't have to build ships, take people across, train them, whip them. So basically, some of the things he touched about were psychological. It's not about just your skin, but it goes deeper than the color of your skin. The psychological aspect, like we're talking about for years, Mungo Park discovered River Niger, but no one has come to ask, really? So it's already a psychological problem. We have internalized things that were foreign to us, like, oh no, this is the way the world began. This is the way things were. But really, this is not true. And we've discovered these things.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I remember you were telling me one bit of the book. I think was it that he was staying he was staying with a lady or something, and the children were treated differently, or?
Yeah, of course. And even more importantly was the discovery of the treatment of soldiers during the war. I mean, both people are going to die in the war, yet you treat them differently. You don't let black soldiers go into combat. So are you saying that it's better to be alive being white and better to die being white in the war? So, I mean, these things really, really run deeper than we think. It's really psychological. The effects are that deep.
Also, in his book, he covered about how black troops and white troops were being, I mean, troops
Yes,
of
of
African
course.
descent and European descent were being treated differently.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, wow. So wait, I thought that, so wait, are they just using black troops just as human shield or what?
Now, majorly black troops were usually at the back, the white troops are the front lines. Black troops usually in terms of cooking, cleaning, doing the menial jobs. But the white troops could carry the guns, go into battle, take the glory. In military terms, taking the glory.
Okay, so
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 these
so
are some of the
I'm guessing based on I'm guessing this is World War I we're talking about, right?
World War II.
Oh, World War II. Okay, and this is on the European front, not the African front, yeah.
On the European front at first.
Okay, okay. Because I know on
Yeah,
the African
at
front, they
first. I mean,
basically.
these experiences, even in the First World War, we had some of these experiences of the Africans being not being allowed to fight. Segregation is the actual word. Segregation of troops, even in combat.
Hmm. Yeah, because I remember, I mean, speaking of the war and Africans' role in it, I mean, look, we just had Remembrance Day not so long ago here in UK, and I remember all the flyover and all the glory, everything they were just talking, and I was like, but wait, hold on a second. There were a lot of, I mean, I know that Mussolini's troops, all that stuff, he came trying to take Northern Africa and all that. It was the African troops that really dealt a huge blow to him. I know that one of the Nigerian battalions actually were involved in driving them back at Ethiopia. And
Yes.
remember, he used nerve gas as well, which was, I mean, come on, how would you, unarmed people, women and children, you go and the guy was losing so badly, he just decided to hell with it. We are just going to, and the whole world just watched and said nothing.
Yeah,
As
I
usual.
mean, even there's a battle in the First World War. I think it's the Second Battle of Ypres, or the Second Battle of the Somme, where it was also called the Battle of the Chemists, where nerve gases were being used on troops on both sides, the German, the
Oh yeah, I
British, the
think that's
French.
where it was outlawed. I think it was after the First World War that they decided to. I've forgotten the treaty that they signed, but they signed something basically, in effect, banning the use
Yeah.
of chemical. Yeah.
Some of them being the Geneva Convention.
Mm-hmm. But it's always funny every time if it's in a country like one of these Middle Eastern countries or African country, everyone just seems to say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. It's like no sanctions, no nothing will follow. Just I mean, I suppose in a way it's also kind of like
War. War is man's best destroying, man doing his worst to destroy his best. Some of the things we do, the killings are not just. It's not something you could do on just a regular day. I mean, you kill millions of people, then you become a general, you take the glory. This is destroying a fellow human being like you. So there is no way you can actually glorify war. I don't understand why people talk about gallantry, camaraderie, and
yeah,
all
it's
you have to do is just kill people.
yeah. I mean,
Brutal.
it's just like trying to justify rape. To be honest with you, I mean that is equivalent to that. Really, that's all
Totally
it is.
evil.
So I mean, if you're going to say that rape is terrible and everything, then how can you justify sending young men and women to kill each other on just because two governments disagree or because they want some resources from somewhere and the trade deal is not going to favor them, so they don't want to do fair trade. They just decide we're going to bully these people after all. I mean, I suppose that when they came, they had the muskets. Us in West Africa, they don't have muskets. So because I remember there was a king in I believe it's Benin Kingdom, because Benin Kingdom been around for quite a while. So I think it was in the 14th century when these guys came, and they first wanted to trade, and he was appealing to them to teach his people the act of making gunpowder in exchange for bronze works and all kind of treasures and everything. But they refused. They found, oh, no, it's too. I can't remember I think it's in that book that I actually referred people to last week, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I think it's in one of the accounts there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Toyin did a brilliant job on that book. He goes all the way from the 9th century to pretty much modern day to the 19th century, 20th century. Sorry. So he's the guy did. He's a professor, I believe, at Harvard University. I know he has some other books. I haven't actually. Terrible on my part.
There are so many books out there. Have you read The Black Jacobins?
Oh yeah.
C.L.R. James.
C.L.R.
It's a
James,
very good book.
Yeah,
very good book.
Yeah. You see,
talks about the tragedies of the British military in Haiti, formerly Saint Domingo, right?
Yeah,
in Haiti. It's a very good book. People need to know some of these things.
This is the thing. They are very happy for us to be doing rap music and jumping up and down and doing all this kind of stuff. That when we're doing that one, oh, nobody's going to disturb us. Oh, yeah, do all that one. Once someone says, oh, he wants to sit down and start doing research, then that's why you hear, oh, we cannot provide funding for that. That, oh, this year we have expended all our funding that we were going to use for that. Maybe next year you can apply again. But if you say, oh, it's one musical video you want to do, trust me, they'll give you money to go and do all this. That's why I remember saying this international development that we're doing. Sometimes I just be looking at it and just say, who is kidding who, But you see, this is also going back to this self-hate thing that we were saying. Because of this destruction of our barter system and this replacement with now this psychology that money is the solution to all problems. I think this is now one of the biggest evils that Black people face in this world. Don't get me wrong. It also affects them here in the West, these people doing whatever it is just to get money. But fortunately, because of their educational system and how their society has evolved, they tend to associate the problem solving and then knowing that there is financial reward at the end of it. You see, they're exposed to better philosophy. They have some, all these, now the names all skip my mind. But they have so many philosophers over here that all explain about the process of getting riches. When they bring this same kind of thing to Africa, it will just be think rich, or what was this? All these wish it, have it, want it, or some all these kind of funny. You'll be like, when did that ever work for anybody? Who sat down one day and said, if I wish had enough for $1 million, if I just sit down here and wish it come,
all your problems are solved.
They will now see opportunity to steal. They will say, that this is the universe teaching and showing me opportunity. This stealing, don't worry, it's not stealing, it's the universe answering. And then also in this same
terrible.
In this same vein, we put our own brothers and sisters down in the process, because you have a situation where you have somebody, he's in charge of resources that is supposed to be shared equally, that is supposed to be invested in betterment of the people. He just takes the easy way out. If I just sell this raw material, they will give me money. Well, why do I want to be dealing mining this thing, a processing plant or anything like that? What's the point? In short, didn't they say that black man cannot invent anything? Let's just sell the thing.
That's one of the worst statements ever. We know the black man has invented a lot of things. Evidence has come out of Egypt having light bulbs.
Yeah. Are you serious? Wow, tell me about that.
Yeah. I don't want to say back then, years ago. So there are some of these research of the origin of black inventions or history. In terms of Egypt being, being civilized. When we talk about civilization began in Egypt. And there's a book, Black Genesis. It talks about the origin of man being
Oh
black.
yeah. You referred me to that book, Black Genesis. Yeah, actually, I managed to
I've
find.
begun the book. I've not finished it, but yeah, Black
Yeah, I mean, I
Genesis.
read the summary, the prefix on it, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get my teeth into it. I've got about 3 books now that you've recommended to me, so I'm like, oh, which one am I? And then this one I was just mentioning to you today about how Africans actually were the ones that discovered, well, not discovered, but Africans had been to America long before Columbus even knew what ship or sailing was. So, I mean, but they would
There's
explain a
something
lot. They would
interesting
explain a
about
lot.
Columbus also. I had read somewhere about the Knight Templars during the Crusades, actually even going to America of that time. So this is almost 400 years or less or more or less before Columbus. And this is out there. So I'm still wondering, Columbus.
I mean, how old is America again? America is what? How old? How many 100 years? 200 no.
No, 200 and from the celebration of the independence. But before then, it should be about 400.
Yeah, I know, obviously, because slavery was going on. They were exporting Africans in the 15th century. So, yeah, I know.
Just chain people, slug them along in the
I mean,
hold
for
of
me,
sheep.
yeah, no. I mean, for me, the evidence of Africans in America, actually, for me, it's to do with the gods, our gods. And I don't believe that it's possible for the slaves to have carried these religions with them the way they are established today, or the way you see traces of them, even in the what do you call those guys? The Chinets, what are those guys called with the pyramids there in Latin America? Chinitsu or
Some of the Aztecs
Aztecs,
and
and yeah.
yeah.
Because you see some of the similarity with our type of worship or our type of I don't like to use this word religious practice.
Have you heard about is it Michu Picchu or
Michu Picchu?
that
Yeah,
the
that's the one I was.
colonialists
Yeah, that's actually what I was trying
never
to.
discovered that? So I was surprised. Really, they never actually were able to discover the location. That was very interesting to discover.
That was the one I was trying to remember. And when you look at some of the practices and stuff, that you start thinking, wait, and these people, they will come and they'll tell us, oh, you're barbaric, we have to get rid of all this stuff, you're sacrificing virgins and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I say, wait. And you replaced it with what? Your own ultimate book that your God, your so-called great God, his only son, again, any other picking. The only picking where he get, he go sacrifice her. So wait. If your own God self is sacrificing your own picking, also, who are you to tell us that sacrificing is a barbaric thing to do? Hey, your own God endorses it himself. He's sacrificing your own picking. So I mean, really, I think that there's something there that I always say you need to read in between the lines, and let's not kid ourselves. We know that Christianity was hijacked from Africa, even that region in modern day Iraq. There are a lot of stories around that side that they also hijacked inside their book, which it's nothing to do how. I don't know if you've seen that interview with Muhammad Ali where he's saying, I don't get it. Like, how do we have a white Jesus? How come they're only white angels?
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, there are a lot of deeper issues involved. We really can't say, okay, for example, let's just put a basic premise. What color or race was Adam? Because 2 Japanese can't give birth to 2 black, a black child.
No.
2 Arabs can't give birth to a Japanese. The Japanese can't give birth to an Indian. So these are basic, fundamental questions we need to ask. What race was he? Adam.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. If you're going down that creation story, the creation story for me just doesn't hold water. My problem with this, I mean, and this is coming out of America a lot. I try to shy away from, the main, all this Facebook and things like that, because I just feel that there's a lot of vile on there. People see, you can have constructive discussions about around all these issues. I know they are very pressing issues. I mean, look, somebody was just murdered by the police force and stuff. As I said, not something that just happened today. This has been happening, for, for as long as I can remember. I mean, when I was a kid and so they asked me to go to America as if that they will kill me there. No, no, no. You guys can buy video game when you're coming back, but I mean, first, I'm not going.
You were that scared when we were young? Wow.
I must have been like 8 years old or something. I said, no, me with my questioning. And the kind of problems I was getting into in the Catholic Church with all these my questions. And I was in Africa getting into trouble asking questions. I imagine going that side and asking questions. Oh.
That's wow. That's very, very, very. You've actually known these things from early on. I mean, blacks have actually suffered a lot.
I suppose I was just fortunate. I was the youngest in the family, so I would hear a lot of. Don't forget, my dad was already 41 when I was born. So the kind of conversations I was kind of privy to, that I was hearing as a baby, really, I was hearing a lot of this hate stuff already, and then Fela, I discovered Fela very early. Because my immediate older brother is 10 years older than me, so obviously he was listening to Fela. I was also at that young age, I was just picking all these things. I was like, you mean this
is? That was a prophet.
Baba plus Gida, all those. I was just like, So I was going on. I say, wait, if this racism is happening there, but then here we have this tribalism or whatever kind of thing that is going on. I said there must be something deeper here that we're missing. And why is for me, I found that every time when you ask a question and instead of them to answer the question, they start trying to either beat you or punish you. I knew that there was something they were trying to hide. That was always, it's just like having an idea that, elderly people are having sex and you are trying to ask them about it and then they start punishing you.
What do you want to know? I want to know how I came, how the babies come about. I know God brings babies. Okay, from where? They need to know. Produced from where exactly?
So yeah, I think a lot of these things, these deity things also, about them saying that it's barbaric and stuff. I think also what happened, because I know obviously, that Benin region in Nigeria, that Benin going to Osun State, that region, they're very, their practices, that you have all this Shango, Ifa, the different deities and stuff, as you were even saying earlier that time about how now they refer to God with the small g, whereas the other one is the other one is big G. You see, the thing about it, it would make sense for there to be multiple deities or multiple gods or multiple because I think it was true ancestral worship, not worship per se, because that word worship as well can easily be misconstrued. I think it's if you think about it, like now, if you look at towards the India and that region, Asia, where they practice all this Hinduism, Buddhism, they're always talking about this yoga, and they're saying yoga what's the meaning of yoga is union. What is this union that they're always talking about? And they're always talking about this universal intelligence. And it's really fascinating, really, when you start delving into, their practices, Sikhism and all this kind of things. Very, very interesting the way they're always emphasizing meditation, this trying to separate one from the body and the mind, trying to distance yourself, create this distance between yourself so that you can become a receptor for the universal intelligence. And I think this was something that in Africa we knew long time ago. We knew that these ancestors, they were like our connection between this physical realm and the non-physical realm. And it was important that we maintained this connection so that, you know, we would have guidance. And then also when things went wrong in the physical realm and we needed, you know, intervention, we would then consult this our ancestors that will now be able to, you know, through multiple dimensions or, you know, alternate dimensions, be able to give us, you know, outcomes and solutions. That's why I always say that if you want to fight all this corruption in Africa, remove all the Bible and Quran and reinstall the African deities the way it originally should be. Whoa. Nobody will steal anything because they know that those people, their phone is always ready. There's no busy signal. They will strike instant.
And that's the thing. A lot of us are actually scared of what we hate. We are scared of it. We don't like our own gods, but we're scared of them.
Yeah.
If you tell someone to go to a shrine now to take an oath.
Wait, I think there's a story right now going on in Nigeria where there is one commissioner. I'm trying to remember the region, but it's going on right now. I read it in one of the papers, online papers recently. The commissioner's husband's house was actually set on fire by the youths because apparently he had done something. He was doing some cultist or something. He was, you know, getting some youths into some cultist kind of. I'm not too sure exactly because I didn't catch the origin of the story. I just saw the outcome that they burnt his house and they dug some kind of moat to prevent the authorities from coming into the community and everything. And basically, they banned him from the community, saying that he should not come back to the community because they called him that if he's innocent, he should come and consult Oracle for the Oracle consultation, and he refused to come. So they say, your refusal to come is basically indication that you are guilty. Yeah. People are, yeah, I know very well. I know when I was doing my farming, when I see those red ribbon broomstick tied on somebody's mate.
Yeah.
I don't even like to tempt fate. I just say, yeah. I will record it, or I'll take recording. I might make one or two jokes about it, but I will not even tempt to even say, okay, let me see what will happen. I remember I did once actually do something. It wasn't stealing per se. We went to River Ocean, and there was a particular, we went to the Ocean Shrine. I should correct myself. And there was one particular place we went to. We were told that that river, that, you know, people come here when they have illnesses or anything, and they will like bathe or drink from the water and stuff like that. And we were told not to fetch water from that place, but, you know, we were young. I can't remember. I almost have been like 11 or 12 years old. We fetched this water. The next morning, so it was a day trip. We'll go back to our boarding school. The next morning, I checked this water. I can't remember what was growing inside the water, but I did not investigate any further. I just went to go and dispose of the water and the bottle that I had it inside, everything as far away as possible and everything. Then I was still, you know, messing around with Christianity. So I was there doing rosary. I beg. I don't know what I went to go and mess with, so I beg Virgin Mary or Jesus, come.
I mean, you can see the conflict now in the identity of the black man. He believes when he goes to the church and he prays, he'll be forgiven. Then he runs away from the other side, the deity.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even think about it that way, but I think that was, you're right. I was a perfect example there. Yeah, that was.
So these are the things that actually happen, and we really need to ask ourselves, where do we stand? Do we follow this way? Because a lot of people go to church in the morning or in open, then at night or when the eyes don't see, they sneak in back to the ancestral before colonialists came up.
Yeah. You know,
the ways of their father.
Yeah, unfortunately, what I heard, I was, you know, because, you know, they always talk this thing about virtue, how important virtue is and stuff like that. And I also believe that in regards to African deities, this was also something very, very important. So I think, you know, do you remember the arm robber Shino Rambo? I think everybody knows Shino. Anybody that was in that southwest
Yeah,
region knows Shino. The stories, you know, are legendary. With his car covered with all kind of weapons and everything, that he would do bank robbery. Like, he will come out the bank, police will be there waiting for him to come out. As he's just making the exit out of the bank, that's how he will just vanish. Then next thing, they will just see him in this car, just open fire on everybody. Like, the authorities were petrified of him. I think the only way they caught him was he was the one that handed himself in. I believe he was the one that handed himself in, actually. I mean, but the stories behind it were in terms of the spiritual powers that he had and what he did to get those spiritual powers. I heard they were, you know, things like even pounding babies in a Malta and stuff. Very, very crazy things. But you see, this is the thing.
That's gross.
No, crazy. But you see, this is the thing. This is what I always say. You know, there's always two sides to these things. Obviously, someone that has access to this kind of, look, this Christianity, I didn't know also using it for evil things. It's just that we don't really know. You know, some of these private groups and cults that they have in the West here, they have their own cults as well. It's just that, you know, you are not allowed to talk about it, the secrecy. And, you know, white man, he knows how to keep secret. It's not like us that any small thing now we'll just start blabbing, making noise up and down. We get excited very easily. No, they know how to keep secret. They'll be there looking at you. They'll be stabbing you and be just smiling like, oh, nothing is going on. No. He's stabbing you at the same time. Also, I don't know why. But no, so I think that what it is that when someone does this thing and is not virtuous and does these things, it kind of has a reverse effect. You know, it can have and because as I said, the instantness of our ancestors. Because I think there's one rule in this universe that nobody can deny. You ask of the universe just gives. The universe is not into this. You know, this good and bad is a foreign, is not, the universe is not looking at it like that, good and bad. Because really, if you think about it, how would they be police if there wasn't thief? You know, there's some of these things that it does, you know, there has to be, how would you even appreciate kindness if you didn't know, you know, hatred or, you know, evil, you know, those kind of things. I think the just the yin and yang of the way the world works. So on this thing as well with the deities and the ancestors, I think there are also practices that one can do that will invoke certain kind of protection. Because apparently, from what I heard was, or actually what I read with regarding Shin Rambo was he killed all the priests he went to go and meet. The, you know, the Ifa, you know,
yes,
what I mean.
Ifa,
let's just use that word. He killed all of them. He tricked most of them and then ended up killing them just so that nobody will be able to undo the powers that he got. Apparently, he even he had a spirit wife, you know. One of the things as well in his practice was he was not allowed to sleep with any woman other than his wife. So even though he had all these, you know, girlfriends and stuff that he would entertain after his operations and stuff like that, he never actually had sexual, I mean, according to his own account. So, because apparently he's a pastor now. I believe he's still alive, and I believe he's a pastor. Yeah.
Well, if the state granted him clemency, then possibly, why not?
Yeah, I think he did like 11 years in prison or something, and then came out and then changed his name and became a pastor. One of these evangelist pastors. And I'm sure even with that one, he'll be doing some kind of miracle using, you know, the underworld magic powers. But, you know, say, okay, don't worry, she be not Christianity in one corner.
Yeah, so those are actually the issues black man faces. Having to something foreign was forced on him. So, and he was told his own ways are a bit shameful or it's shameful. Someone sees you going to a shrine, now everybody like turns and where the hell are you going to? So
Mm-hmm.
that shame has come in. It's not like a woman having a husband dating someone else, or a man doing that. So these are some of the things we really need to look at as Africans. Where do we really want? Where do we stand as a people? Don't be
Yeah.
ashamed of your own culture, the ways of your people, and fine, if it works for you, why not?
I mean, I think this is something, I don't know why we're so, I know that sometimes when I was younger and I'll ask these questions, they'll be telling me off. And I know sometimes, I mean, even now when I think about it, I have young niece and nephews. I know sometimes they'll ask some rather challenging questions. And you as an adult, you will not want to look stupid but to be honest with you, I always try to be as blunt with them. Sometimes I'll just tell them, it's a very good question. Do you know what? Let us find out together. We'll do research together and find out. I mean, even sometimes, even in mathematics, they'll ask me something and I'll think, I know this thing, and I'll do the calculation and I'll check the answer in the back of their book and I'll be like, sometimes I'll say, no, that, sometimes this book have mistake. You know how it was in Nigeria then when we were younger. I would say, no, the book make mistakes. And it was true, the book have mistakes. But now you're in the West, you're like, yeah, I'm sure they really checked this thing. So even when I hear myself saying it, I'm like, no, I cannot, I cannot pass this off. I said, Uncle has made a bit of a boo boo here. Let us find it. Yeah, you try and play off your stupidity, but you're only stupid till the ignorant till you discover the truth. So eventually we find the answer together, and it's more rewarding. They even remember it better. That's what I find.
Yes.
So I think that's something that also, I think our elders, should not be so ashamed if they don't know certain things or if they don't remember certain things. And also we younger ones, we should not be so, what would I say, disrespectful towards the
Vincent?
elders for not remembering certain things. Or, also
Yes.
sometimes some of these things are difficult to explain, especially to do with these issues of the deities. There are only certain people that had the knowledge. It wasn't something that everybody was privy to. As I was saying
Yes.
last week, some people have specialty that the things that they specialized in. And these worships and these practices, it was not widespread. It was certain people that knew the wisdom. And then this wisdom was kept within that family, and passed down in that. And because of there were certain I think there were certain things that if it was just made readily available without people going through the necessary practice that was required to attain this wisdom, if the wisdom was just given like that anyhow, it could be misused.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think there are certain principles in this universe. Now we don't really know, because all we know is this Western way of things and stuff. I mean, people are
Yes.
flying, were using broom to fly and stuff before plane and all this. But we don't really understand the concept behind it, so we just write it off as, oh, is hoax, is a myth, is
Yes.
just stories, is we
Witchcraft.
which well, look, if witchcraft really exists, say person with this COVID time, bring broom, let us just fly. Especially those Ghanaians that have to pay $1,000 to go from Ghana to Accra. I'm sure if there was broom service now, they say, "Whoa, come, let us carry broom service and be going."
Yeah. Because it will be monetized now.
They will not be monetized
The
now. There will be
modern world,
nothing.
everything is monetized.
Mm. So and I think this is the trap. This is the trap that I think if Africa is going to get out of all this racism, all this oppression, all this stuff, they need to find a way to break away from this monetization system, because it is what is killing our people. I strongly believe it. If someone wakes up and believes that all he needs is money to solve his problems, then how can the person even start thinking of how he's going to solve his immediate problems? He will not. He will just be thinking money, 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 money.
Yeah. Probably the next episode we'll talk about the issue of money supply, how money works, and see how it affects us in other ways. Because
Yeah,
it's funny where you can't, as a country, you don't produce money within, it comes from outside. And the world system, depending on the US dollar,
You know?
we no longer use the gold standard. We use the US dollar.
I mean, me, I
Whatever
always used to
happens
say this
to
thing that
America.
I can't understand how you be exporting your raw material and then I'm the one selling something, or you came to come and buy something from me, then I'm not the one telling you which price or in which currency you are going to pay it. You are the one that is buying it that will now tell me which price you're going to pay and which currency you're going to pay. I don't understand that one. It's just like I'll be there farming, and then somebody will just come and meet me and say, "Well, this is how much I'm going to pay." And moreover, I'm not even going to. I'm going to use brass to pay you for this thing. I'll just be like, and also, speaking of
Yeah.
farming, this is also another thing. You know how farming, something of pride, they have now turned it into, oh, how can you be involved in farming? I remember when I was telling people that I'm a farmer,
Yes.
they were laughing at me. Say, in Europe, moreover, when I came back, when I was I had a YouTube something, I just did a few, because they were disturbing me that, oh, is it true that you're doing this farming thing? So I just said, oh, let me just do some educational stuff so that these other people can learn. I can teach some people about organic farming and, one or two things. Most of my subscribers are from America or India or not even Africa, which is kind of sad, but yeah, they value it more. We were there in Africa saying, no, this is something for village people that, it's people that cannot
Yeah, the
succeed in anything.
occupations. Yes. You're not a scientist, a doctor, an engineer.
And there's a lot
Everybody
of
is
science
still.
involved in farming, serious science
Yes.
involved in farming. Sometimes I have sleepless nights doing research, trying to understand, how to improve my soil and everything. I remember when I started recycling organic waste to make compost and everything like, there were things that I was surprised when I went to my dad's village and a place that used to grow yam before, now they're just growing cassava. And I was telling them about compost and everything, and they were just looking at me like, "Whoa, how did you learn this one? Where did you learn this one from?" And I'm like, not so many generations ago. I mean, at least my great grandfather was selling sesame seed to the. I think it was the Lebanese that were middlemen in Nigeria. So they were coming to buy. He was supplying sesame seed for them to export. So it was the sesame seed actually from our region is called Benin seed, because specifically this sesame seed from this region had the highest oil content, of all the sesame seeds. So that's where that name Benin seed even came from. Most people don't even know this stuff. When you not even start trying to tell them this, they'll just, oh, this backward something, they'll be talking about farming. This is nothing serious. A young man like you should be involved in better things, why farming? Come on.
Demonized
This
and
self-hate,
reduced.
this self-hate has to stop, man. It has to stop until we can get past. Because I think this is also another thing that they use very easily against us. And I think you can see it right now in America with the demonstrations and everything. It's very easy for them to turn it around into something very negative. What has
Yes.
it taken? Few undercover police officers, a few crackheads that they have paid off to go and do some destruction and some looting. Hungry man too will just jump on that opportunity. And now the whole thing now just looks ugly. There's no way you want to look at it and say that, oh, the movement that they're doing there is something good. You just look at it from anywhere in the world, you just look at it. You just imagine you haven't been following the story, you just turn on the news, you just see these people. You'll be like, yes, of course they have to use force against these people. Look, they are causing tyranny now, they're causing destruction. So the whole purpose, the whole message has been completely lost as a result of that. Anyway, I think we have really gone into it today, man. And I can see the good people of KD of Kaduna Distribution Company have struck as well in your.
I've struck.
Before you
Yeah.
lose your charge and your internet connection, I think we should call it a wrap. But yeah, I think that would be a good idea to talk about the money and how money came into Africa and all these tricks that they did against us, and now we are the ones that are basically killing ourselves over this piece of paper, because that's all I can call it. It's just a piece of paper, really.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you again today, man. As usual, I learned something new. I'm going to have to go do some further research as well. Yeah, this is it's always insightful talking to you, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah.
I know you're a busy man.
All right, I'm always happy to oblige you, and we have to do what we have to do. Free your mind from mental slavery. Very
Exactly.
necessary.
That's
Yes.
it. Well said, well said. All right, brother. Stay
Thank you,
blessed,
everyone,
man.
for watching.
Yeah, man. Thanks, everyone. We're gonna try and keep this up. And yeah, try and as much research as we do. We're not scholars, but we just thought that we'd be sharing with you as well. Enjoy.